All right, welcome. In this explainer, we are going to unlock two of the most important, absolutely fundamental building blocks of English grammar, phrases and clauses. And let me tell you, getting the difference between these two is a total game changer, not just for your writing, but for your grades too.
So you might be thinking, why should I even bother with these terms? Well, here's why. They are the absolute foundation of every single sentence you write. If you can master them, you're not just learning grammar, you're learning how to build stronger, more interesting sentences. You'll communicate with way more clarity, and you'll be able to walk into those grammar sections on your tests feeling totally confident. Okay, let's break it down with a simple analogy. Think of it like Lego. A single word, that's one Lego brick. A phrase is like snapping a few of those bricks together. It's a little component, right? But it's not a full structure on its own. A clause, though, now that is like a mini structure. It's got its essential parts, a subject and a verb. And that right there is the core difference we're going to dive into.
All right, let's start with our first building block, the phrase. So, what is it? A phrase is basically a team of words, all working together as a single unit. They definitely have meaning, but here's the catch. If you pull a phrase out of a sentence and look at it by itself, it just feels incomplete. It kind of leaves you hanging, asking, and then what?
So, what's the golden rule here? The one thing you absolutely have to remember to identify a phrase, it's this. A phrase will never have its own subject performing a verb. Nope, never. It can do the job of a noun or an adjective or an adverb, but it's always missing that core subject-verb engine. That is its single most important defining feature. Burn that into your brain.
Now, phrases come in a few different flavors, and they're usually named for the job they do in the sentence. So let's do a quick flyby of the 5 most common types you're pretty much guaranteed to see on any exam.
First up, we've got the noun phrase. This is super straightforward. It's just a group of words that acts like a single noun. So in this example, the whole chunk, my personal website, is the subject of the sentence. It's all working together as one unit, just like if you'd said it instead.
Okay, next we have the verb phrase. This one's all about the action. It includes the main verb plus all of its little helpers, the auxiliary verbs. So it's not just walking, it's the entire verb string, might have been walking, the whole shebang. This gives you all the details about the tense and mood of the action.
Then there's the adjective phrase. You guessed it, it's a group of words that does the job of an adjective, which is to describe a noun. So, instead of just saying a blue dress, you can say a lovely blue dress. See? It's doing the exact same job, just with a little more flair, a little more descriptive power.
And following that same logic, we have the adverb phrase. This modifies a verb, and it usually answers those classic questions: how, when, where, why. In our example, beside her mother tells us where she stood. It's a whole group of words that's acting as a single adverb. And last but not least for phrases, we have the prepositional phrase. Now, this one is usually pretty easy to spot because, surprise, it always starts with a preposition. Words like in, on, at, up, through. That first word is like the locomotive that pulls the rest of the phrase train along. Okay, heads up, because here's a really common trap that students fall into all the time. You see a long string of words, and your brain just automatically goes, oh, that must be a clause. But you have to remember the golden rule. It doesn't matter how long or fancy or descriptive it is. If there is no subject-verb pair working together inside it, it is a phrase. Period. All right, time to level up. We're moving on to the clause. And the key difference, the big reveal, is right here in the definition. We finally have the two essential ingredients that were missing from the phrase: a subject and a verb. Every single clause, by definition, has to have both. So you can really think of a clause as a mini sentence. It's got the who or what, that's the subject, and it's got the action or the state of being, that's the predicate. It's this powerful combination that gives it its special sentence-like quality. And clauses, they come in 2 main flavors. First, you've got your strong, self-sufficient, independent clause. It can stand all on its own. And then you have the dependent clause, which is, well, it's a bit needy. It can't stand alone and has to lean on an independent clause to make complete sense. Let's talk about that independent clause. Honestly, it's basically a simple sentence. Take a look. Our dog will run away. That expresses a complete thought, right? You could slap a period on the end and it would be a perfectly correct sentence all by itself. It doesn't need any help to be complete. But now look at the other part of that sentence. If the gate is left open. Now, it does have a subject, gate, and a verb is left.
So we know for sure it's a clause, but it just leaves you hanging, doesn't it? If the gate is left open, what? It's an incomplete thought. It desperately needs to be attached to that main clause to make sense. And hey, just like we saw with phrases, these dependent clauses also get their names from the job they do. They can function as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb inside the bigger sentence.
So a noun clause is a whole clause that's working as a noun. Check out the example. I want to know. Know what? Why you abstained from voting. That whole chunk of words is the what. It's acting as the object of the verb know.
Next up, the adjective clause. This one gives you more information about a noun or a pronoun. So the clause, who taught me everything, is telling us more about the man. And here's a great tip. You can often spot these because they start with little clue words like who, which, or that.
And you know the pattern by now. An adverb clause tells us more about the main action. It's back to answering those questions. When, where, why, or under what conditions something happened. In this sentence, when the sun rises tells us when we can go for a walk.
All right, time for the showdown. Let's put these two side by side. Seriously, if you remember only one thing from this entire explainer, make it this. The whole difference, everything, boils down to one simple question. Does it have a subject-verb pair? If the answer is no, it's a phrase. If the answer is yes, it's a clause. That's it. That's the secret.
So, how do you put this into practice? Here's your simple, 3-step field guide for spotting phrases. Step 1, find a group of words that seem to belong together. Step 2, hunt for a subject and a main verb inside that group. Step 3, if you can't find that subject-verb pair, then congratulations, you found a phrase.
And for spotting clauses, you guessed it. It's the exact same process. You're just looking for the opposite result. You're still on the hunt for that subject-verb team. But this time, when you do find one, you know you're looking at a clause. It really is that simple. Now, let's talk about a couple of common traps to avoid. A huge one is seeing a verb string like was running and calling it a clause. But wait a minute, where's the subject? Who or what was running? Without a subject, it's just a verb phrase. Another classic error is misclassifying a clause. Once you know it's a clause, always ask yourself, okay, but what job is it doing in this sentence? Is it acting like a noun, an adjective, or an adverb?
Okay, let's get practical and talk about acing that test. For any question that asks you about phrases or clauses, your very first move should always be to scan for the subject and verb. Think of it as your compass. If you can find that pair, I promise you, you are more than halfway to the correct answer.
Look, watching explainers like this is a great start, but true mastery comes from practice. It just does. So grab a book, any book, find a nice, long, complex sentence, and start taking it apart. Play detective. Find the main clause. Hunt for the phrases. Identify any dependent clauses. That's how you make this knowledge stick for good. And remember, this isn't just about ticking boxes on a test. It's about becoming a better, more powerful, more sophisticated writer. The best writers use a mix of sentence structures to create rhythm and interest. Knowing how to build and connect your clauses is the key that unlocks the door to writing that isn't just simple and repetitive. All right, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. A phrase, a group of words, no subject-verb pair, acts as one part of speech. A clause, a group of words that does have a subject-verb pair. And the core difference, the one thing that separates them every single time, it's all about the presence or absence of that subject-verb team. And here's one last slide for a super quick revision. You've got the 5 phrase types and the 2 clause types. But the most important thing, the number one rule, is this. Find the verb, then find its subject. If you can answer who or what is doing the action, you've found a clause. So I'll leave you with this question. What is that one golden rule that separates every single phrase from every single clause? By now, you definitely know the answer.